Councillor Christopher.
It's an old picture. It's from the summer.
Oh, okay. This summer? Past summer?
Last time we had a festival, so not this summer, the summer before.
Okay.
We are live on, we're back on live.
Okay, and we're all back from a 10-minute recess. So we're going to proceed with committees. On procède avec les comités. Le premier comité à l'ordre du jour est gouvernement général. And I'm going to pass it on to Conseillère Lise, who's chair of that committee.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Mairesse. On a 4 choses à discuter ce soir. There's 4 items. The first one, D2A, is the petition that we have in not too long ago for the school in Field, la démolition de l'école à Field. So don't know. I think we have. I know. We have a memo from Alicia. So Alicia, could you maybe talk about the memo? I don't want to read it, so could just summary in your own word what was said, and then we'll go for a discussion.
Thank you. Yes. So the school is in the process of a tax sale process. So the tax sale process actually takes a few years. Because of COVID, the process got delayed. We actually should have had this property out for tax sale in 2020. But when the province shut things down in March, they actually put a freeze on the tax sale process unless you had reached sort of a certain point by March 21st or 22nd. And we hadn't hit that milestone yet. So our all of our tax sales were frozen for last year. We have restarted the tax sale process, and the final notices were sent out at the end of January. There's a 60-day window on those final notices. And then after that, there's a minimum of a 5-week advertising period. So we're into May before we'll have kind of at the earliest that we'd have actual, a closed auction on the school property. Tax sales, I think most of this council, all of this council has been through the tax sale process with us before. So it is a closed bid process. They are advertised provincially as well as in a local source with a minimum recovery, which is our outstanding balance of taxes and the cost that it's taken, that we've incurred as far as running the tax sale, the legal notices and the advertising, all that. That's all part of the cost that goes out as sort of a minimum bid on a tax sale property. If the tax sale process is unsuccessful, then after that time, I usually bring the properties back to council, and council has actually got sort of a 2-year window to decide what to do with those properties before we have to start things all over again. So at that point, I'll, if the tax sale is unsuccessful, I will bring it back to council and ask council, do you want to vest it? Do you want to try a tax sale again? Do you want to do nothing with the property? And so that process is going to run. And if we get to the point, then a decision to vest the property is the only way that the municipality can own the property. We don't own the property right now. And owning the property gives you more options as far as what you're going to do as far as demolition, development, partnerships, anything that might come along with that. We can sort of keep other opportunities in mind as we're going through this process. Obviously everything that, if you're looking at doing demolition without owning the property, there's sort of very limited number of ways that municipalities can do that. And then there's some legal risks in that as well when you're going that route. So, I just wanted to sort of let council know that the tax sale process is going to continue as far as where that goes, and then we can talk, at the end of the tax sale process, or if we're looking concurrently about other options in between.
Okay, so I'll go around. Conseiller Yvon, est-ce que tu as des commentaires ou des questions?
Non, merci, Lise, ça a été bien expliqué. Merci.
Okay. Conseiller Fisher?
Yeah, so I just reiterate, there was 545 signatures on that petition, and those happen very quickly. It's easy to get a lot more. People do want rid of that school, but I understand that it's a complicated file. I'm happy that people are looking at it, and I fully support the fact that we move forward, and there needs to be more research done and options come up with. But baby steps, and let's get it done. Thank you.
Conseiller Larrabee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I have I guess the question is there anything that tax sales and everything else takes time. Is there anything that we could do for the citizens of Field to secure the safety of people, the kids going to play in there? Is there anything that we could do to lock it up for them so the citizen would feel more secure? For the meantime, thank you. Who would I direct that to? Jay, I guess?
Jay?
I'll have a look at, obviously the property is condemned. I don't know if it was condemned by our building official in the official manner, and then what the processes would be to board it up, and what I'd have to look into whether, if we assume it, if we are now liable for everything, if we start taking ownership over it. And so but certainly I'll explore avenues that protects the health and safety of our residents and the kids over there while protecting the corporation's interests.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, up to Conseiller Leo. Conseiller Leo? You're on
Sorry,
mute.
no question. Thank you.
Conseiller Dan?
I guess what I'm wondering is there any moral obligation from the board to do anything about this? They're the ones that did sell it to somebody else before. Is there any obligation on their part?
I'd have to, you mean moral obligation isn't something that I got to watch how I answer this, because it could be misconstrued, but I don't know that I'd be the one to comment on a moral obligation.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
Conseiller Denis?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Madame la Mairesse?
Just some points of clarification out of curiosity. So the building is not owned by the municipality. It's under a different ownership. The tax sale is proceeding. The process for a tax sale, there's no involvement of council to say yay or nay, because that's legislated according to the act. We have receivables in what range that are outstanding on this building?
So this building has over $100,000 worth of taxes outstanding on the property. Council did make the decision quite a number of years ago to stop charging interest on the outstanding balance. So it's not continuing to accrue interest on the property, but there is sort of a very moderate amount of tax each year that gets added to that balance.
Okay. And I've noticed that some websites, once they start a process and that they proceed with a tax sale and that it's in the public domain, they also post it on their website, as a form of advertisement, making people aware in case, in the event, I imagine, of potential interest. Is there a mechanism that we can use as well to let our local individuals and, the more that the information is disseminated in the outside world, who knows? Could that be an option that can be considered? Or do we have to follow the due process of exactly what we're told as far as the advertisement is concerned?
It's both. So the advertising is very prescriptive in what we must do. And there is some talk of changing the must, but so we must follow the very prescriptive part of advertising. However, we do usually have a link on our website for the properties that we are up for tax sale that will take people to actually a realty site where these are listed. So we do usually provide that to people on our website, yes.
Okay, and do we identify what's the lowest bid that we will entertain for that building? So that means automatically anyone that sees this and they see that there's a receivable of 100,000 on the building, they're not going to come forward if they would want to submit a bid which would be lower than 100,000.
Correct. And if we receive bids that are less than our tax recoverable, they actually are not valid bids, and we don't entertain those bids.
Can we identify now that we would be interested in knowing if there are bids that would be lower than our receivables?
No. So in the first step of the tax sale process, it goes out, and again, it's very prescriptive. So if they submit an invalid bid, it's simply sort of not considered. If we go through an unsuccessful tax sale and council wants to take a look at investing and putting it back out for a different value, we want to talk about negotiating and things like that. After the first one, you'll have some, but the first process is very prescriptive.
Okay, so we'll have that flexibility at the second process if there is a second process. Okay. Okay, I think I've got all the information that I have. And I just want to finish up, Madam Chair, if I can, for people that think that it's a straight demolition. It's not just a regular demolition, because I know in the past when this was discussed at council, the price tag to demolish such a building would have been in the range of 400,000 or more. So is that still an amount that's on the table right now? Probably even more, I would imagine, because of the couple of years since the last time it was discussed.
Yeah, we
wouldn't be able to put a price to it, but yeah, it'll likely be around there or higher.
Okay, so for people to know that right now, the reason why that wasn't done in the past was because of the price tag that was attached in demolishing that building, which is not owned by the municipality. Okay, so I just want to say I'll wait and find out what the outcome is going to be of the tax sale.
Okay, so my only comment is, and I agree with what Jay said, that and I also agree with Councillor Larrabee, there's something we can do, but if we put any sign or anything, I don't think we should put anything on the land, so they don't come with that miracle thing that we own the land, because we don't own the land, and we need, before we make any decision, to make sure that it stay like that. Because then we might become liable if we put something, but there's nothing stopping us for putting sign at when the land starts, like danger, don't go in, but because it's a private land, it should be them put it sign, not us. No trespassing, because we're not responsible when we don't own the land, and we're not, we cannot be criminally liable also for that, because we don't own the land. So at this point of time, I think it's great that the process will start, but I do have a question, because that land has been, that building is since 2004. So how much is the government said you cannot do nothing before almost 20 years, or how does it work? Because you said you started in 2020, early 2020, but I mean, it's been since 2004 that the building is empty, and that the tax is not paid. So is the government, I don't know how it works. Is the government, no?
There were actually a couple starts at the tax sale process, even with a predecessor tax collector, but because there are so many complications, and because the demolition, and because there's a lot of other things, we've never actually taken it through to this stage. Louise and I have been working at cleaning up, these problem properties in the municipality that have kind of lingered, but trying to space out how we attack the properties we have. We had, I think, sort of 5 big ones, and this is number 3 that we're moving through. So yeah, the whole 20 years has not been on the government. Some of that was just kind of not an appetite to carry it all the way through.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. Well, and I don't have the power to make any recommendation, but I mean that, to make sure that I would put sign before the lot and say danger of going at your own risk, to show that we're trying to do something. Because, at this point of time, we have to wait and see what's gonna happen. So thank you very much. So now we're going to go to D2B, which the LAC Group purchasing discussion. So it's a company, it's a group, I guess, community that gets together, and the power of buying stuff, we can get stuff cheaper. Is that what it is? I'm trying to summarize before, very, very short, before Jay talk about it, because you did send a memo explaining the pros and cons. And so before we go for a discussion, Jay, you want to add anything or just summarize your memo that you sent? Thank you.
Well, there was a request made, local authority services, LAS, which is affiliated with AMO. Sorry if you heard that. Which is affiliated with AMO, have an initiative called Municipal Group Buying Initiative. And so there are a variety of different buying group purchasing initiatives. There's education consortiums, there's municipal consortiums, there's hospital buying groups, and so on and so forth. And they serve definitely they serve purpose to basically capitalize on the buying power of more than one organization than the other. So to confirm what you're indicating, Madam Chair, obviously the pro to it is that you can get, if you're listed on these, I don't know that you have to join necessarily. I think you're automatically able to if you're a municipality, but you're able to avail yourself of the list and get perhaps a preferential price. So that's basically in a nutshell. There's a variety of different products that are listed on the website, and that we can avail ourselves. Right now, we have a procurement bylaw that talks about how we conduct purchases, and that we should be conforming to those types of purchases. So I likely, if you are wanting to avail yourself of a service such as this, you would want to amend your bylaw to give for the opportunity. What I indicate though, and I used to be in a past life, 30 years ago, director of a purchasing program, and there was a lot of these different programs, and they do have their pluses, but they also have their negatives, and you also want to be very careful. Sole reliance on it, which I'm sure you're not advocating, but could lead to not always getting the best price. And B, as I indicated in my memo, is that it doesn't necessarily take into consideration the total, every aspect of the purchase, including price, quality, and service. And so I know some instances that of products that are on some of these sites that are actually refurbished products and not even full products. And so, and then there's the issue of supply. Obviously, if you're into group purchasing, those that are able to participate in group purchasing, one of the criteria would be that you can service the entire province. And so by nature, you're very big, and you're really going to be catching the center of the province to make sure that you're not losing a ton of money. So you're usually based in the GTA area. This is a generalization, but what you run into is in the local purchasing area. And by local, I could mean West Nipissing, or I could even mean North Bay, where some of these folks may not make it on those lists and then be disadvantaged. And secondly, some of those who make it on the list may not be able to service as quickly or as conveniently as some of our local supply. And so though it's a product to consider, it's certainly a product that I would caution council as to how it is considered, because it kind of flies in the face of competitiveness and open and transparent government as well. So I leave that with you.
Okay, gotta go around, conseiller Duhaime.
Years ago when I had a small business, I was in a purchasing group, and it helped me quite a bit. I saved percentage wise, I saved quite a bit, and I was able to make good money with the product I was selling because I got it at a better price. Considering what Jay was saying, I think it's something we should look into, especially if we're purchasing trucks or graders or backhoes or whatever, and investigate, see exactly what's involved before we get into this, and see how it works. And if it's a positive issue, well, then I would certainly be interested in looking at it. But otherwise, I certainly want to know the ins and outs of everything. So I think, but not pushing it aside, I think we should look into it and see whether or not it'll work for the municipality. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Conseiller Fisher?
So I took a look at the site. I understand the concept. My concern would be local vendors, especially at this time. We wouldn't want locals to lose business, especially right now. The one part, so if we did implement it, I'd want it implemented in it so we have flexibility. The one interesting part that I'm not sure, and perhaps this is something Lisa might know about, but there's a big section on electricity, and I know that's something that we spend a lot of money on. I don't know if we can benefit from that portion specifically or not, but the rest of it, when it comes to local vendors, local services, I'm a bit dubious. But certainly I'm willing to look into it more.
Thank you, Conseiller Fisher. Conseiller Mallette?
Rowley before me, Madam Chair.
Oh,
Councillor
sorry. Conseiller Rowley. Okay. And I got the paper in front of me, believe me, so I don't know how can I miss it, but Conseiller Rowley?
Thank you. Yes. I would say this could be a very good, useful tool, but Councillor Yvon just said, graders and loaders, that would put, we deal usually with Sudbury, Toromont on these issues, and if it's a Caterpillar we buy in, and we have to consider service. If you don't buy your vehicles or your equipment from local, services could be a little harder to get. So I would say we buy a local as much as we can. Sure, it would be an advantage as far as the price is concerned, but we're kind of hurting our own municipality or the surrounding municipalities. So I would say that we leave it with staff. When staff feels that it would be an advantage to the municipality, then they should have the option to take it or leave it. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Rowley. Now, Conseiller Mallette.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I say status quo because there's, especially right now with all the local businesses having a hard time with the pandemic and the COVID-19. So I say no. Right now, I say no. Don't move. Status quo.
Thank you, Conseiller Dan.
Yeah, I was, when I saw this on the agenda, the first thing I thought of was the campaign the West Nipissing Chamber of Commerce has put together, buying local, and it flies in the face of what they're trying to promote. And I know that our small businesses are hurting. I agree with Councillor Mallette. I think it should stay as it is because we don't want to hurt our small businesses that pay taxes. And then Councillor Rowley, when you said about servicing vehicles, I've heard stories where people buy vehicles out of town and try to have them serviced here, and they're been politely told to bring it to where they bought it. So I wouldn't want us to be in that position. So I have a problem with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Dan. Madame la Mairesse. Your mic.
First and foremost, when I submitted the request back in July to have this discussion, it was not to hinder in any shape, way, or form what is available local. I was made aware by a neighboring municipality, the equipment that they purchased, the same piece of equipment that they would have purchased out of this buying group would have been $20,000 more, but because they were affiliated to the group, they saved 20 grand for their municipality. The local authority service affiliated with AMO, they have booth at all the municipal conferences, or the majority of them. We see them at AMO, Roma, Good Road. They not only provide a group purchase, but they also provide services. And I think if we want to allow staff to explore opportunities where they can save tax dollars, or that they can acquire also services which would be beneficial for the municipality, we need to be able to amend our procurement bylaw. It's not to provide a crutch to our departments for purchasing, but it's to provide an opportunity of saving time and saving money. And I just want to use this as a comparable. It may not be the same. You buy a Costco membership and you can use that membership and get $1,000 savings as an example if you buy a Ford vehicle. But because you invested in that membership, it provided a window of opportunity for a saving. So by being a member of this group, which I don't know if there's a cost, can open the door for some savings. And I see, Jay, you're nodding no. But according to the information, I'd be more than happy to provide which mayor, which municipality that bought a grader last year, and the same piece of equipment that they would have bought without being affiliated to this group, they would have paid $20,000 more. So they saved $20,000 by buying the same piece, the same make of equipment that
Right.
they were looking for public works.
I
It
won't comment
provides-
on that. All I was going no like this is about the cost to join LAS, but I no need to argue with me. I was just agreeing with you to one of your points.
Okay. And one of the other issues, we buy some material like culverts as an example. We get them from out of town. Are we going to be depleting Southern Ontario companies? You know what? If companies know that they're going to get a volume that's going to be acquired by them, of course there's going to be a cost saving. So I think to say that we want to close this window would probably be a disadvantage to our municipality, to our managers of departments to see when they can. Unfortunately, we could have explored even LED lights for our communities, and we could have saved money for energy, but that program shut down December 31st. So my intent of bringing this forward was not to damper in any shape, way, or form what is available local. It was to expand the opportunity on how we can save money for our taxpayers. So I'm bringing it, that's why I brought it. And I hope that council would consider amending the procurement bylaw to allow that window, because there is an opportunity. And that's my say, Madame Chair.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la mairesse. Bonne explication. Je veux dire, moi, je suis d'accord avec ça, puis je crois que Jay avait mentionné dans ce qu'il a parlé tantôt qu'il n'y aura pas rien de mal à explorer ça. Puis moi non plus, je ne suis pas d'accord que si on peut acheter quelque chose, un auto, par exemple, que ce soit Ford, Tremblay, n'importe où, qu'on regarde le prix à Sturgeon, puis qu'on achète s'il y a une différence de choses. Ce n'est pas pour essayer d'empêcher. On ne parle pas d'aller chercher des supplies, là, puis d'acheter on parle des gros morceaux d'équipement qu'on n'a pas dans le Nipissing West pour commencer. Si on a, on regarde ce qu'on peut acheter local. Puis si c'est 20 000 $ de différence, c'est 20 000 $. Alors moi, peut-être que je me trompe, Jay, mais tu as bien mentionné qu'il n'y a rien qui apporterait de changer notre chose pour... OK, je pensais que tu me coupais là, Jay. Là. Il n'y a rien qui empêche de changer pour adapter, vous donner cette option-là, ou ben non, cet outil-là, pour essayer d'économiser des argents pour les taxpayers. So what I'm saying, I'm going to say briefly, I think I'm in agreement with that because the purpose was not to get into the way of buying local. It was to save money, and I think Jay can save more, a little bit more, because I did ask him a question. I don't think Jay was against it. I guess you have to reward it that it will be good for everybody. Jay?
Well, yeah, so my memo is fairly clear with respect to the
Yeah.
fact that, yeah, you can save money. But I throw some cautions in there with respect to how it's used. And that's all. So, I mean, staff right now are used to finding usually the best price quality service. This is another tool at their disposal. But the reason I raised that, again, I've got a bit of experience in a variety of other industries as well, and that it has been, well, I'll give you a personal one, the hospital purchasing group. I used to sell to hospitals, and I sold a variety of things. One of them was surgical gloves, and the price per case that I was selling to North Bay was probably $5 or $6 more per case on $100 than I was selling to Sturgeon Falls, actually. So, you know, if you're a purchaser and you rely just on the list price, you bother doing your homework, that's what happens. And that's all I'm saying is, your staff still has to look at the best options for that product in this market. To make sure that everybody's and you got to consider all factors when you're making a purchase. How, when's it going to break down? How fast can they come and fix it? Stuff like that. And that's all. But yes, amend your purchasing bylaw to allow for the possibility to avail ourselves of this service.
So again, Jay, what you're saying, that it's not a bad idea to just allow your staff to be able to do that. So is now I'm gonna just ask the question for direction for for council is who's in favor to adjust our bylaw, like Jay was saying, to allow, yes?
Madam Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, Conseiller
I'm
Denis.
not I'm just
Sorry.
having, no, but I'm having trouble with my system here. I lost the video and I can still hear you, but I'm working on my video. But just my comment was that we should open up the bylaw, the procedure to purchasing and look at it. And we don't have anything to lose, I think.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm still working on my video here. I know what's going on.
So I'm gonna go around and say who's in favor. Yes, Councillor Rollet.
Now, I would have a question, I guess, to the mayor, because she has some information on this. If we go through this LAS group to purchase, would our equipment come from the same dealer that we are dealing with now? Like, let's say we're talking about Caterpillars, we're talking about Toromont and Sudbury. Would our equipment come through them, service through them, through that group? Or it would be from Toronto, and we cannot depend on Toromont to service our equipment? Just a question.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, you're asking a technical question. What I can tell you is that there's a neighboring municipality, which I asked the question.
Video says you cannot start video.
Conseiller Denis, we can hear you mute if you want to discuss something that have not to do with council.
Hey, sorry.
The specific equipment that they bought, that they would have bought without being a member of LAS, was the same equipment that they got as member as LAS, with a $20,000 saving. Now, looking at the technical issues, where does it come? Where it comes to servicing, that's where we have our managers of purchasing departments that they look at everything. But what I'm saying is we should keep that door open, because if there is some savings to the taxpayers, we should look at it.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. You did answer the question, I think, and it's pretty hard to know. I don't think it's a question that I guess we're going to leave the staff, if they have to, every time that they have to buy a big equipment, they have to come to council anyways, if it's capital project. even they could come and say, you know, we can say that and we can ask those questions then. Am I wrong, Jay? Or it would be up to staff to figure if the service can be provided close by or they have to go to Toronto. That would be asked when you're looking for the whatever you want to buy, right? That would be part of your research.
Right.
Yes, okay, so
Chair?
conseiller, yes, conseiller Rowley?
I would feel much in a better position to vote yes or no on this if I would have the answer if the equipment would be bought local through this group. Because it's very important to know if
I
we're
think Jay-
supporting local.
Jay have an answer to that.
Buying groups vary in how they deal with things, and so. But I'll say you this: you know, if it's a bid or if they've gotten a series of acceptable vendors with the group purchasing price and they didn't do a tender or whatever, they just say, what is your best price for LAS kind of thing, whatever. That's one thing, is how is the group structured. The other aspect of that is how is the company structured. And so let's say you're Toromont and Toromont is on their bid. Sorry, somebody's choking over. Somebody is on their list. Then obviously Toromont in Sudbury would get that notification and get the service for it. If they are a local company that sells big stuff, but they're like, and they're not necessarily affiliated with a central bid, then it's more problematic. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, kind of.
Company, or is it a dealer? Is it an agency? There's a variety of different things that come into play.
But you will know that when you do the research for that, and the decision would be to all of those factors involved.
So my view of what I heard here, if you want, Madam Chair, is that I don't think anybody is against opening up a variety or to the opportunity, as long as some of the conditions or issues that affect perhaps our local residents or service issues we factor into our total cost anyway. So I think if we just amend our bylaw to allow for the opportunity to consider them when applicable, we'll get the right language and we'll bring that to council at the next meeting or at a future meeting. But I think there's consensus on that.
Everybody agree on that? Show of hand, please. Okay, then I guess it is. Thank you. So that concludes that part. Now we're going to go to D2C, which, je vais le dire en français, modernisation des programmes municipaux, puis c'est des fonds disponibles, puis c'est Mme la mairesse qui a ajouté ça, fait demander pour ajouter ça sur l'agenda. Then, Mme la maire, can you explain what it is, or briefly, and summarize briefly?
It's notification to let us know that if we want to submit an application for additional funding, which is eligible for small rural municipalities for modernized service delivery. We did get this funding, I believe, 2 years ago in the range of 700,000 within that range. But now they're saying they're providing additional funds if municipalities want to hire a third party to look at efficiencies or look at integrating services or developing alternative ways of doing business to save tax dollars. There's a deadline to submit the application. It's not too far around the corner. It's identified as March 15, 2021. Recommendation would be that staff look at what can be done and provide us notification maybe at our next meeting to let us know if an application will be submitted for funding.
Any comment? Conseiller Leo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Would that cover the study for the Verner water treatment? Not water treatment, but bringing the water from Cache to Verner? Would that be part of it? Would that qualify?
I don't know the details of exactly what the criterias are, but that would be, probably in the purview of our CEO or Director of Corporate Services, Alyssa, if they had the opportunity to check what the program identifies as far as criterias.
Jay, would you have an answer? Alicia, is Alicia gone?
No.
Well, I'm trying to find her.
On my screen above you.
Ah, there you go.
No, I haven't had time to research beyond the listing there. Eventually the province does usually release a guide. We're just looking for expressions of interest at this time, so it's not as involved as the full application, which will come later. But we certainly, kind of before next meeting, have some of that investigation if the province has got the guides out.
Thank you very much, Alicia. So I guess we can expect an update on next meeting. Am I right to assume that, to think that? I hate to use assume, but.
Next general government.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we go to the last item for this committee is D2D, Roma delegation update. And again, Madame la Mairesse, I think you attended that with Councillor Larrabee, and you had two delegation, one with the Ministry of Health or Housing, I'm not too sure which one, and the other one with MTO, right?
Yes,
If you want to give us again, just a sense how it went and brief summary.
Okay. So what I'll do is we all were provided copies of all the entire documentation that were submitted to both ministers, Minister of Long-Term Care and the Minister of Transportation. If you have no objection, I'll pass it on to Conseiller Rowley so he can provide an overview and then I can comment on the issue.
On the issue or the delegation?
On the delegation, sorry.
No problem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I was really impressed with the delegation. It went really well. They were very subjective to what we were asking. When it comes to MTO, they gave us the option, or they will send Mr. Aimé Demitieux from MTO to come and meet with us at town hall or by Zoom, I presume with COVID, so we could raise all the concern. We have all the notes. We received, I make sure that everybody on council received the copy of it. So this is concerns from the businesses in the area that would like to see the improvement on this in this area anyways, which is very, it's proven that it is a must for this area. And also it would be beneficial to West Nipissing if these companies come through with their project. There's some that are committed, some are in the works to be committed. So it was a very good advantage to us to have this meeting, and the mayor was very convincing on this part. And as far as the long-term care, the minister said that we are in a special situation, let's say. It's a challenging situation, and they would be looking at trying their possible to help us. Back to you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Conseiller Rowley. Thank you for those comments. Yeah, Minister of Transportation, Carolyn Mulroney, was very receptive. There was one issue pertaining to the left turn in the municipality of West Nipissing, which is the intersection of Highway 17 and Leblanc. Made the minister aware that that has been ongoing for quite a few years. And the commitment is that there is going to be ministry officials that are going to contact Jay. So there could be a meeting on that subject matter pertaining to the design. As Conseiller Rowley mentioned, pertaining to the 539A, one of the critical elements was to make sure that the local businesses, the economic development of the area, tourism would not be disadvantaged by not being provided a half-load exit. And the supporting documentation was given to the minister. And here again, that's where they said they probably would be inviting the Director General of the FedNor to also attend at that meeting. The ongoing issue with Eau Chateau, the loss of the 102 special agreement funding, the minister was very compassionate and made reference that it's a unique funding situation, but also made reference that there had to be a solution that needed to be found to fix it. And that's what I retained from the delegation, and that there would also be the involvement of the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing that would need to be at the table to look at the opportunities of how this issue will be resolved. So there's going to be dialogue with the municipality. In the interim, I want to send a big thank you letter to both ministers for providing us the opportunity, the time, and listening to our concerns, and that we're looking forward to near future dialogue and hopefully remedial issues to the requests that were brought to their attention.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, Conseiller Rowley, to had attend also. I think it's good information and it sounds really positive. And now the only thing we have to do, it's, I guess, wait and see. So that conclude, ceci conclut la rencontre, cette portion de cette rencontre avec le gouvernement général. Merci beaucoup. À toi, Madame la mairesse.
Il y a un item qui est ajouté pour l'entremise d'addendum.
OK, ben je ne l'ai pas vu, moi.
Ça serait dans notre paquet qu'on a été acheminé cet après-midi.
Ben mon chose est à mort, mon iPad est à mort. Je m'excuse, j'ai pas eu ça. So, c'est quoi qui est le, je vais te le donner à le dire. Parce
Madam Mayor?
Your worship, it's not there. It's on the regular agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
The regular resolution.
Okay.
It's just I was following the arrow that was on my consolidated form, so my apologies.
Okay, so that
You're
concludes.
okay, Conseillis, you're right. It does.
No,
conclude your
I'm not,
committee.
I didn't even, because I didn't check my iPad because it was dead when I tried to do that at before the meeting. I had my package, so, okay, so thank you very much, and now I'm back to you.
Okay, thank you. And that was my bad, my apologies. We move on to planning, planification. I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Denis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have two items on the agenda for planning. The first issue is an offer to purchase the vacant municipal land in Field. And I'll let Melanie explain what's going on there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Note is fairly self-explanatory, and I am aware that we are in the process of formulating a policy on how to deal with these sorts of requests, which I'm not quite finished yet. However, this individual had been waiting for a little while, so I thought I would at least bring it to see if council wished to discuss it before the policy is enacted. The information about the property, I'm not sure that a policy would change an awful lot, given the fact that this is kind of a special, it's not like it's a building lot or something. It is an island in the Sturgeon River in the floodplain, for which development would be very, very unlikely, and in fact, not really prohibited by or permitted by our zoning bylaws. So I understand from the individual, he wishes to purchase it just to have. He's aware that he can't, build a residence on it or any other structure for human habitation. I made him aware of that, so I'm bringing it to council to see whether they wish to entertain this discussion or whether you would want to put it off until we get the policy in place.
So, okay, so we have a decision to make. Do we move along with this request, or do we wait for the policy? We have a show of hands that we wait for the policy. Everybody in favor of waiting for the policy? So.
Well, can we ask questions?
Well, we're not going to debate it and then wait for the policy. I mean, we can wait for the policy. It'll come back on,
Okay, okay.
you know, why hash it twice? I don't
I
see
don't want
it.
to
So
ask it.
I think the consensus here is that we wait for the policy. So let your client know that that's our decision. Madam
Thank
Clerk?
you, Mr. Chair.
And the second item is, and I'm not sure why this is on the agenda tonight. But before I proceed, I just want to make it clear that at the last planning meeting, we did discuss this because it was sent from the council to the planning to give opportunities to some of our members that weren't involved in the bylaw. And we had a discussion around that, and I'm not sure why it's here because I think the consensus from the planning board is that we proceed to public meetings. So that's what I've heard, and I've double checked with some of the what do you call it, members, and so I can say with assuredness that the planning board should have sent it to the public meeting at a forum. So because we went and there was two members that wanted to not to proceed because of regulations, and the regulations would not prevent a bylaw officer from going into the trailer area and look at the septic if we have a bylaw. And we don't really need regulations for the bylaw officer to go in and check the septics. And that was the main concern during the public events that we had. So I'm not seeing why we should put it in abeyance just because we don't have regulations. I think we should, because when the bylaw officer came to us a year ago to the planning board, they wanted some tool to say, okay, we have a tool that says we can go in, we can look at your septic, it's a bylaw. So that was a basic tool they were asking for, let's say. So when we did that, with all the consultations we did, and it was apparent that and it even states on Jay's report that there's a lot of people in the West Nipissing that did not want registrations and licensing. And quite a few, a lot of people, maybe 90%, I don't know. So that doesn't really prevent us from moving on this bylaw. So I'm wondering tonight if we need to vote on this abeyance. I guess if it's on the agenda now, I don't think it should have been, but anyways, it's on the agenda. So I guess we're gonna do a little round table, see if there's any questions or, but I don't feel like we should be rehashing the what do you call them? The steps that we went through the last time as a council. We all agreed, and some people didn't agree to some steps. And so at the end of the day, the council said, okay, we'll send it to planning and they can send it to public meetings. So that's where I'm from. That's what I see. And so I'll just go around and see what's the opinions, but I don't want to rehash every option on the bylaw here. So I'm going to start off with Yvon and see if what's your comments,
Thank you,
Councillor Yvon.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with what you said. I think what we're at right now, and because of the COVID situation, it kind of puts us in a situation that we cannot really move ahead with respect to public consultation. And that is, to me, is very important. I think the public should be made aware, and it's much easier if we hadn't to deal with COVID. And this is where I would like to wait and see until we can again meet as groups to fully make them understand what's being happening when we're creating this new bylaw or amending the bylaw. So, it's, but I don't think we should erase what we've done. No, I don't think so. But then again, it's like you say, it's part of the procedure is public consultation. And I think we should do everything to make sure that it's done properly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Yvonne. Next is Councillor Fisher, I guess. I don't know. Oh, he's on the phone.
So my go.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just looking at the note, like my one concern is really unless we have some kind of registration, whether it be free or not, any bylaw we put wouldn't really be enforceable. You can't really get grandfather things if you don't know what's there. So I know there is a lot of stuff in that bylaw where we almost universally agreed on things, which is rare for us. But things like setbacks and stuff like that, those could easily be put just in the zoning bylaw. And I think for the other reasons as well, pandemic, we should probably shelve this and stop spinning our wheels on it and maybe come back to it when the pandemic's over. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Councillor Leo Spons. Rowley. Sorry, Rowley, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm at a standstill with this. Nobody's against protecting the environment, but I don't think that that this bylaw, the way it was too restrictive to some people. When you have to I don't want to rehash the whole thing, but when you have to choose between
Point of order.
I say scrap it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, because I mean, I know you're going around, but the reality is the directive was given to staff at the last meeting that was discussed it, and the directive was to bring it to planning for public. So if we ought to have a true discussion about that, we have, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Barbeau, Madame Mayor, whoever wants to correct me, 2/3 to discuss it properly. And I think right now we're getting into a discussion that has been made and it was agreed by all staff. And at that time, we were 9 staff around the table and it was fast to send it.
Excuse me, Madam
Yes,
Councillor. Okay, your point of order is taken and I ruled against it. I think we're just going around to see if abeyance is an option right now. We're not going to discuss every options on the. I gave or Councillor Rowley a little bit of leeway, but if you want to be to the letter, I could do that also. But please wait your turn. So we'll go to. Are you finished, Mr.
Well, I would just like to tell you that, like I said just before I finish, I scrap this.
Thank you. Councillor Mallette.
Yeah, the same thing. Yeah,
Scrap it. Holy jeez, that's really unfortunate. We put a lot of work in it. Anyways, Councillor Ravita.
Councillor Denny.
Yes.
What you're asking us is to bring it back. Is that what you're asking? I'm not sure.
No.
I'm asking you to either we put it on hold or we go to public meetings.
Well, we already had public meetings, didn't we?
No. When the next step on the whole process is to go to public meetings, and then
meeting during the COVID, I guess it would have to be another year or so.
Well, whatever. Do you agree to abeyance, or do you want to put it on hold, or do you want to send it to public?
I mean,
okay, thank you. That's good. Councillor Ravita, you're next.
I'll make it short.
What?
What's that? Sorry, Councillor?
Abeyance, please.
Abeyance? No other comment? Okay, thank you, Mr. or Councillor Ravita. Who's next? Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know what? I'm not going to raise the issue pertaining to the content of the bylaw. I'm going to raise questions pertaining to the process. council approved a draft bylaw dating back in May. We hashed each item one by one to get to a draft. Then we decided, not that we needed to decide on a consultation process and which body would do the consultation. And council agreed, majority agreed, to send it to the Planning Advisory Committee for them to do the consultation. We were provided with a memo, and yes, according to COVID, we need to adopt. However, when we made that decision to send it to the Planning Advisory Committee in May, planning was not being held because of COVID until there were provincial guidelines provided to our planner on how to proceed, and this reconvened in June. The memo that's dated September 25th by our planner outlines exactly how the consultation is recommended, what was being proposed to proceed with the planning. And it talks about creating the portal. Look at page 2 of the memo dated September 25th that was provided to the West Nipissing Planning Advisory Committee. And the bottom part talks about the next step. Pursuant to section 34, we have to do consultation on the draft bylaw that was approved by council. The public has the opportunity to see this draft bylaw. They have the opportunity to voice their opinions if they're against something. And due to COVID restriction, the public consultation was being proposed by creating a portal on our website, similar to what was done when it was the OPP, put a notice in the newspaper requesting written submissions, place a notice on our website, place notice in our public facilities if they're open, such as libraries. Now, we understand, and also coordinating a Zoom meeting when members wanted to make a presentation if they do wish. So to engage the public to view the draft, that's what was being proposed to the Planning Advisory Committee. I missed the last meeting of January 18. I do not know why the Planning Advisory Committee did not accept the proposal that was provided to them to be able to proceed with the consultation. I don't think it is the role of the Planning Advisory Committee to start debating the content of the draft bylaw that was created by this council. If they don't agree with sections, they have the right to participate in the consultation process. But according to the act, the governing body is council. Council made a decision, and if we want to overrule that decision because we don't agree with specifics in the bylaw, well, then that means that we need to reconsider this bylaw. And by reconsidering the bylaw, I believe that Councillor Lees was right that 2/3 majority would be required. I did not sit at those consultation sessions, and I did not sit at council to hash every item and try to get to a consensus. And once the consultation is done, and maybe our planner can, share with us, that consultation process, there's going to be a draft, and the Planning Advisory Committee are not the final governing decision makers for the bylaw. It needs to come back to council, and then council makes a decision on it. So to recommend to keep it in limbo, keep it on hold, I don't think is part of the process. And I do not understand why that process is not being adhered to. I'm totally confused, because I'm not sitting here to rehash who agreed what and who disagreed what. When it comes to time to make a decision on the actual bylaw, if there are issues that are problematic, it's going to be up to the governing body, which is council, to make that decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do not believe that it should be in the Bidens. I think the process needs to follow. And if there's reconsideration of what was decided by this council in the last year, which has not been more than 12 months, I want to know the process, and I want to know if it's going to require 2/3 majority vote, and I want to know why planning returned it to council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I could maybe answer a few of that. I was at the meeting and we did not send it back to council. We just agreed that we just to move the process forward as the planning board. There was objections, but the consensus was to move it forward. So at this point, I think I'm at fault for a little bit for not pushing or advising staff that the group wanted to proceed to public meetings. And I left it at that, and I shouldn't have. I should have insisted that we go to public meetings. But you are right that this comes back to the council's decision, and the council had agreed to proceed with the bylaw. And now we're trying to rescind it, which would need 2/3 of a vote, if I'm correct. And I'll pass this on to Mr. Barbo now.
May I add?
Yes, sure.
Okay, and that's exactly what I was trying to say a little bit earlier.
Okay.
And I don't blame anybody, but the fact remain, the discussion happened and we lost about 15, 20 minutes. And at this point of time, it would be no, because I'm voting against definitely to put all the hours of work that the staff did towards that, all the hours that we sat. I didn't sat just at 2 of them, but some sat at everything, and it will be brought back. And if there's discussion, that would be happening at that time. So obviously it would have been defeated tonight also, because there would be 4 vote. Well, you might vote to put it on the shelf, Councillor Denis, what I don't think you will, because you just said what you thought. But that's what I have to say, and I don't understand why he wasn't on here tonight also. So.
Thank you, Councillor Senecal, and I agree that I think we all agree, or I'm not sure if I get the point here, is that council did send that to planning as just as a courtesy, I guess, so that the 2 members would have a say in the 2 members that are not members of council would have a say on it. That's the only reason it was sent back to planning. And at that, before we sent it back, we did agree to all the clauses in the agreement, and we agreed to send it to public meetings or to bring, excuse me, to bring the, excuse me, I'm speaking. I didn't interrupt you when I spoke. When you spoke, I'm speaking. So anyways, now you just threw me off here. But what I'm saying is that we did agree as a council to send this bylaw forward. And now we can't rescind it unless we have 2/3 of the votes. And that's what we should do tonight. And I'm sending it back to Jake. Do we need to, how do we can't rescind the bylaw unless we vote on it.
So there's a lot of statements, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. There were a lot of statements that were made that sound plausible or what have you. I would want to reserve the right to maybe just defer this, the whole subject, to have a look at the procedure. You were in committee, you brought a conceptual agreement back in May to planning, and there wasn't any specificity as I recall, but just, hey, this started at planning, send it back to planning as a courtesy. That finally happened, I think, sometime in November. Then there was some questions with respect to the role of the Conservation Authority, as I was explained, and then I forget what else now, registration or what have you. And so the way it was described to me is there's still a lot of moving parts. And so that's why I explained those 2 answers. And then at that meeting, I kind of read things slightly differently, just that there seemed to be consensus for the fact that there's a lot of moving parts and we don't seem to get some consensus where this thing has teeth at all. And so perhaps if it doesn't have teeth, it doesn't go forward. But that was my recollection, and it's obviously slightly different than yours, Mr. Chair. And so perhaps the more prudent thing to do is to come back and provide just with an explanation. And if in fact what has been said today is accurate, then yes, your logic is also accurate. Then you'd be ready to put the items in the bylaw that Melanie had originally proposed and bring it to a public consultation. So you could wait 2 weeks and we can get back to you, or you could make a decision. But my suggestion is perhaps to wait a few weeks and figure all this out.
Well, I don't think there's very much to figure out. I think it's light and day. I was at the meeting, and I did call or speak to some members today to make sure that what was said and the consensus was to send it to public meetings. And there was 2 objections, and I'm not going to name names, but there was 2 objections, and that was fine. And you were objecting to it also, Mr. Barbeau, but that's okay. But I think the consensus of the planning board was to send it to public hearing. So I'm not ready to wait 2 weeks. Why don't we just vote on it 2/3 and move forward if that's what's needed? I don't know why we put it on the agenda, but you asked for it, so let's vote.
It's obviously
Point of order, Mr. Chair, point of order. We're in committee of the whole, so we have no vote. Right? Right? There's no vote.
You got me there.
What?
Who's the expert on votes?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mallet. I'll gather information and let you know. What's the procedure here? Do we have to wait for a committee of the whole to vote here, or because the bylaw is brought back, and it shouldn't be brought back? We can't. Pardon? Yes, Melanie.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is committee. At no point in time has this bylaw ever been drafted or debated as an actual bylaw. What has been discussed is what do we want to put into the bylaw. So there's no vote on a bylaw because the bylaw hasn't been drafted. And as I've explained to you and to the committee on a few occasions, we cannot debate a bylaw, a bylaw under the Planning Act unless it goes to the public. Okay, so the process is we decide conceptually we want a bylaw, we'd like to see these things in it. I draft it, it gets out to the public, and the public gets back to us, and then council votes on the bylaw, and the public can either appeal it or not. That's the process. Where there is some difficulty, and please forgive me if I'm wrong, is at not the last planning meeting, the previous one, the discussion came up about the grandfathering. And what I explained is that unless we have some sort of a starting point, a point in time where we draw the line and say, okay, from this day forward, these are the people that are already there and the bylaw doesn't apply to them. And then after that, if anybody new comes along, they're subject to the bylaw. The difficulty is we have not agreed on a mechanism in order to draw that line. And I think Jay had tried to explain that at the last meeting, is that without the ability to we can't enforce this. We can make as many rules as we want, but we cannot enforce it unless we have a point in time where we know that there are 342 campers in West Nipissing and they're here and this is what they're doing. And then if we get 346, well, those 3 are subject to the bylaw. I hope I'm making myself clear. It's great to make rules, but we have to be able to enforce them, because if our bylaw officers go out there and they say, okay, you're too close to the water, or you're too close to the line, or you don't have this or that, the person can say, I've been here forever. And we have no way of knowing whether or not that's true or not. So I hope I'm going to rattle on.
Thank you, Melanie. But my comment on that is that we did agree to have the environment in the bylaw. The bylaw doesn't need to be as specific as we want it now. We can always add later on, but the bylaw officers would have the tools to go in and check the septics. Doesn't matter how many trailers or where they are. The bylaw officer can go in, check the septic, If it's not proper, well, he can do something about it. And that's my point that I'm bringing in. But maybe the bylaw is not specific enough. I'm not sure, but I get your comments. So now we're in, Madam Mayor.
Yes, I'd like to respond. Whether you don't have to adopt a formal resolution to say that there was some type of consensus that was taken at council at May 19. We were given a draft of a bylaw that we had agreed upon debating all the points previous. And after that draft, we were asked, council could have done the consultation or planning could have done the consultation. Council agreed to send it to planning for them to do consultation. Now, my understanding is this draft is presented to the public. There's going to be questions. There's going to be people that are going to be against items that are identified in the bylaw. Some people are going to be voicing their opinion. This will be coming back to be able to consider those points to see how it's going to affect the draft that we agreed upon. So to start debating an actual bylaw, which is not formalized by resolution and having the steps of the first reading to the third reading, I get that part. What I do not get is, I know I missed the January 18 meeting. I was the one that brought it up late in the summer saying that council directed planning to proceed with consultation. We need it on the agenda. I believe there was a meeting where it was put on the agenda, but we weren't able to deal with the issue at planning because we ran out of time. And then subsequently, the Committee of Adjustment was meeting, so it was deferred to the subsequent meeting. So my issue here again is we proposed a draft. The mechanism is something that will probably entail more discussion, but that draft right now should be shared by the Planning Advisory to the public for their feedback. And we as the governing body will make that formal decision on the final bylaw. Now, we can check the minutes of May 19th. We can check the recording of May 19, but that was the decision that council made May 19th. So you know what? I'm not agreeing with the process. I don't think it should have been on the agenda this evening. And I don't think it was up to planning to start debating the sections within that bylaw, which was a draft. They were mandated to do the planning. Not the planning, the consultation. And there was some issues in there that had merit to be looked at within the bylaw because everyone had agreed that we wanted a bylaw to protect the environment and there were different issues. Maybe who knows what the final bylaw will be, but the draft right now was to be shared with the public for consultation.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Now I need some help. I don't know how to proceed from here. Do we go back to the drawing board? Do we send it back to council? Or do we vote on the
May I
procedure of
suggest,
continuing?
My
Yes.
recommendation, it should go back to planning. And by the time the next planning meeting is going to take place, we will have a subsequent council meeting. And if anything changes, that it doesn't comply with the rules that have been stated this evening, bring it back to council. But in the interim, it should be referred to planning to proceed with consultation.
Okay, so who's in favor of referring to planning?
You need 2/3 majority because that was the decision. Well, sorry, 2/3 to overrule or change the decision that was taken in May. So right now, we shouldn't even be voting. It should be in the hands of planning.
Yeah.
And if it's not to be in the hands of planning, bring it back to council and tell us what was the proper rules and procedures.
Okay, so that's what That's what we'll do. Jake, can you bring this back in 2 weeks and we'll rehash this mess here
Yeah,
with the proper procedures that we need to follow from here on?
okay. You were against that about 5 minutes ago. So
Yeah,
you
but
coming back now? Okay.
Well, you know, one thing is that I'm not scared of changing my mind. When I see something that's rightful, I will change my mind. I'm
Okay.
not sitting on a piece of stone here. That's not what I carry between my shoulders. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Excuse.
oh my God, and that, anyways.
Okay, I'm sending this back to the floor, back to the mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. My apologies. Community Services, Service Communautaire. We have a memo that was presented to us by our Director of ECDev and Community Services. I'm not too sure if Stéphane, you're on. Do you want to walk us through the memo, give us a closed note version, and tell us exactly what you're seeking by council?
Okay, through you, Madam Mayor. As the memo explained during our last COVID update, it was requested by council that we look at our arena operations moving forward. I provided you with a memo, and more specifically for costing, I provided you with a memo that basically indicates the anticipated revenue. And you know, this is done with a lot of assumptions. Assumption number one is that the lockdown will be lifted next week, and that we'd have anywhere between 5 to 6 weeks remaining on the arena season, which brings us to the latter part of March. We did contact all the user groups that have ICE contracts with us. They've all indicated that there's a willingness to continue their season after lockdown. That being said, we don't know if there'll be further restrictions or guidelines that the user groups will have to follow in addition to what was implemented prior to the lockdown. Some have indicated if there were stricter guidelines and protocols to follow, that basically they would that they could potentially lose members or even shut down their season. As an example, if adult user groups and leagues weren't able to use the change rooms and they'd have to change in the lobby area per se and have to come to the rink fully dressed as the minor hockey kids have to do, the adult groups would most likely not continue their season. That being said, those are basically assumptions. So we're through the memo, we're telling council that we're anticipating the same amount of hours rented prior to lockdown as far as revenue, and that brings us to about $5,200 per week combined for both arenas. And our estimated cost to continue the arena operation figures to be around $4,000 per arena. So what we're seeking direction from council on is options to look at is whether we keep both of our arenas open until the end of March to allow our user groups, hoping that the lockdown, if the lockdown is lifted, so that our user groups can continue their season and salvage whatever is left of it. The other option would be to shut one of our two arenas down to save on cost. Some of the issues that could bring would be to have to redo scheduling. And obviously with two arenas and not that much ice being rented, all the user groups are seeing very good ice times at this point. That might not be the case if we've got to cram everyone into one arena to finish the season off. So again, looking for council's direction on how we move forward with our arenas from now on, assuming the lockdown. Now, if the lockdown is not lifted on Thursday next week, I believe, then council, then I think it becomes more clearer that arenas might not be able to resume operation for this season. We're seeing our neighboring communities, some of them have opted to shut their arenas down immediately. Some have opted to do like we're doing and just take a wait and see approach on what's going to happen with the lockdown next week. There's still no indication on that, by the way, as far as if it's going to be lifted, extended, or if any new measures are going to be put in place.
Okay, thank you so much for the detail. So I guess first question, if the lockdown is extended February 11, do we give direction to our staff to remove the ice from both arenas? Because it means that, you know what, beyond February 11, if it's extended, then we're going to start losing groups. So do we agree to give that direction immediately to staff? So February 11, if the lockdown is extended, we cannot reopen the arenas. It means that, guess what? We don't know what the future will lie in at $8,000 per week to maintain both arenas, which we have been maintaining since the lockdown, since January 12 or 14, for 4 weeks. Well, we can do the math. $8,000 per week times 4 is $32,000 for 2 buildings which are not being used. So quick roundtable for that one issue. February 11, if lockdown is extended, do we remove the ice from both arenas? Conseiller Yvon, yes or no?
If it, I was on the assumption that lockdown was up to the 28th of February, I'm sorry. Okay, so it's to the 11th. All right, if we go beyond that, we really should consider closing the arenas.
Okay. Well, what we're going to do is we'll try to do one item at a time, so at least it's clear and at least it gives direction to staff. So the first issue, lockdown extended, you say yes. Councillor Chris?
So I'm sorry to throw a bit of a monkey in the wrench, but let's say it was extended for 1 week. I would say shut down 1. If it's extended for 2 weeks, I would say blow the whole season. Thank you.
Conseiller Rowley?
I would say to shut it down now. We're in COVID. People are having a hard time. We're going to have a hard time paying their taxes. So I would say if it goes to next week, the latest. But I would say even shut it down now. Save money for the taxpayers.
Conseiller Leo?
Well, I agree with Chris. The only issue, not the issue, but we're going to lay off staff. Or would we get funding from the province for the money we're losing?
We have
Currently-
COVID relief right now, but our Director of Community Services ECDEV would be in a better position to notify us.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, currently our part-time maintenance staff are not getting hours. They haven't since the start of the lockdown. Our full-time maintenance staff are still required to help us maintain our operation. We're still doing snow removal. We're still doing building maintenance and whatnot. It's not we don't foresee reducing our full-time complement staff, and even our full-time clerks at the rec center are still fully employed. We're helping out with the assessment center, and we have work to do. Obviously, our lifeguards have been laid off, and so have our part-time clerical staff as well. But if we were to shut down an arena or maintain the arena, we don't think we're not foreseeing any layoffs as far as our full-time maintenance staff.
Okay, thank you.
So, Conseiller Leo, if lockdown is,
With Chris.
well, what did Chris say? What do you want? What are you identifying?
Close, if it's extended, close for one arena, and if it's extended after, close both of them. Extended for 1 week.
Okay, extend 1 week. Okay, so now, sorry, my apologies, Conseiller Dan.
I have a question first before I say yes or no. Stefan, you say that there'd be approximately 5 to 6 weeks left. Is that etched in stone?
It's not. No, it's always a moving target, but generally our arenas remain open till the end of March, and all of our existing user groups, or 90% of them, have indicated that they would continue to play all the way up to the end of March. So our projected revenue, I think, are going to be accurate for the next 5-6 weeks after the lockdown is lifted.
If
So-
it's elected.
So just a supplemental to that, that would mean that you would stick with that date regardless, and you would not extend it beyond March. Is that what you're saying?
So we've had one user group in particular that said they'd be willing to extend their season, but I don't think it would warrant enough ice time to justify extending our arena season. The other thing is, towards the end of March, what we need to do is shut our arenas down, and then we start getting ready for the spring. We
Okay.
have all of our routine to basically make sure our arenas are mothballed, shut down for the season. And there could potentially be other use for our arenas if the need arises, pertaining to vaccination centers or whatnot. So I think that the very latest we'd recommend keeping our arenas open is the end of March.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. So I'm of the opinion that if the shutdown continues, we should remove the ice at least on one of the arenas for sure, and then from there play it by ear.
Conseil Denis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If there's an extension of the shutdown, I think we should shut her down completely, both arenas. No use keeping that open. Thank you.
Conseil Alice?
Well, I'm in agreement that if it goes past the 11, that we shut both arena for a specific reason, because then we might lose some revenue because some player, if we shut one arena down, some team might not play and might be difficult for schedule, like Stefan was saying, and to create which arena we're gonna close down. So I don't want to go through that again. So past the 11, I think we should shut down the arena. That's
Okay.
my vote.
And I would support that as well. If the lockdown is extended beyond February 11, remove the ice for both. So if I were to look at the actual count, Yvonne said yes, Denis yes, Lise yes, myself, Councillor Rowley, well, I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, but you said close it now. But if the decision was that lockdown is extended beyond February 11, do you support that both arenas are shut down at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's your direction. If there's an extension of lockdown, the ice is removed by both arenas. Now, if both arenas can reopen on the 11th, because there's no extension, we have the forecasted revenues. So if there's any changes to that, would it be fair to say that it would come back to council for further consideration?
I agree.
Would that be fair, Stefan?
So, Madam Mayor, I'm not sure
Okay.
I'm following 100%.
Okay,
Sorry.
I said, February 11, lockdown is not extended. We reopen both arenas. We're told we
Yes.
can reopen both arenas.
Yeah.
We're making a decision based on the assumptions we're given now.
Yes.
If those assumptions would change, i.e. that there'd be a major change with user
Oh,
groups.
okay. I see it. Yeah. Okay.
So the forecasted revenue would have an impact, then it would come back to us, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
If we have a couple major user groups that basically tell us, you know what, we've changed our minds, we're not going to pursue, and then there's a significant drop in revenue, we would certainly come back. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're all okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, so that gives you the direction.
So just to be clear, Madam Mayor, so if the lockdown is lifted and we can maintain the same amount of ice rental hours at both of our arenas, we can safely keep both arenas open for the next 5 weeks?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And if there's major changes where we have lost revenues, then it comes back to us.
Certainly, yes. Thank you.
Okay. So that concludes community services. I'll pass it on to public work and pass it on to the chair, Conseil Yvon.
Merci, Madame Mairesse. You have before you options of estimates that that are for the Belanger Avenue that we intend to do some construction on this year, that we brought it forward from last year. The options are there before you. And the reason why this is brought now is so that once we decide on the option is that we can start planning and get some work done on it immediately so that we can start it as soon as possible. So I'm going to give Sean the mic so that he can explain to you exactly what I was trying to say here. So Sean, I leave it to you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So you have before you 4 options. I asked Jay if we could have this on the agenda. What we want to do is be shovel ready in the spring so that we're not still working on design. We'll have plenty of time to review the design work, and we're not working on design while the excavators are on site. So it's important that we get this design completed. One of the questions I had, because we don't have, a municipal standard or a sidewalk bylaw, I thought I would bring this back to council because I remember last year councillors asking about sidewalk on Belanger Street, as it is a kind of a through street between Salter and 3rd, and also in the vicinity of a school. A lot of bus traffic and a lot of school children walking on a street without a sidewalk. So I'll need direction from council on which option, and I mean these options that we can, kind of give and take some options from the options. So, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. You have 4 options. The option 1A, you're looking at basically a paved shoulder with, with an asphalt gutter separating the paved shoulder and the paved roadway. Option 1B is the asphalt, so again, a paved asphalt shoulder, but what they do to kind of demarc is they pave a rumble strip. If those of you aren't familiar with the term rumble strip, you'll see them on a highway when you're kind of veering off the highway and your car starts to vibrate. It's because your tires are over the rumble strips. So that's 1B. Option number 2 is an actual concrete sidewalk separated by an asphalt gutter from the roadway. And the option number 3 is a full concrete sidewalk with a full concrete curb, raised curb as a barrier. Some of the, each option has pros and cons. The option 1A and 1B has a little bit less liability maintenance wise, because options 2 and 3 have a higher maintenance standard, obviously, when you're dealing with a sidewalk versus a kind of a bike lane. The perception, I guess, at times is when you don't have that concrete barrier is that it's not as safe. So if a car would kind of veer off the road, then they would have to drive over the concrete curb. So it could be perceived as a safer option. Having an asphalt swale doesn't give you that barrier, so a car can drive into and across the swale. What the swale does, so options 1A and options number 2 and 3, you have to be mindful that it's going to create a second snowbank in winter months where you're going to generate service requests for snow removal. Homeowners in the area will have to deal with the sidewalk plow snowbank and then the windrow from the plow trucks. So kind of a double snowbank issue. So those could be things we should consider. The easiest for our crews to maintain is obviously 1B. where there is no, it's basically just an extension of the width of the road, and we can either rumble strip it or white line it as we have on other streets. We just did Laddock Street and Field in this fashion. And that's, I'll give
Okay.
it back to the chair, and you know, if anybody has questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, so maybe just to clarify what you're talking about here, Sean, as you remember when we were looking at the subdivision and we had decided as opposed to putting a sidewalk, we would put a line there and extend the width of the road to allow people to walk beyond the line as opposed to putting cement sidewalks. And we okayed that for the new subdivision that is going to be built on Toronto Street and that area. So just that's and then that's where option 1B. That's the option 1B. All right.
Correct.
So and this is where it would, in essence, it's much less in cost, and it's much less work involved with respecting of snow removal for the municipality. The Ballard Street never had a sidewalk, but we would be widening the road to permit that extra area to walk. Sean, did you want to say something?
Yeah, if I'm just might add that you raised a good point. No matter which option council chooses, it will be a safer option than what we currently have. There's currently no sidewalk, and you're between two ditches. So, you know, just to kind of as a reassurance, whatever you decide on will be safer than what's currently there.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Okay, do we go around? Did anybody want us to go around? Okay, so I guess the first person would be Chris, Mr. Chris Fisher.
Yeah. So I would be in favor of option 2. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd want option 3, but the expenses looks huge. I just have one quick question. I think it's a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. We can't do option 2 this year and perhaps option 3 later. Like basically the concrete in option 2 is at grade, and the concrete in option 3 would not be at grade. Is that correct?
Well,
respond
yeah.
that.
So if you would do, if you're going to do construction, you would construct the curb and the sidewalk on the same year, because otherwise you got to come back in and rip the road up again, right? You're dealing with asphalt again. You're dealing with excavation. I would not recommend banking on option 3 subsequent to option 2.
Okay, thank you. So my selection would be option 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. The next one, and you guys are going to have to help me on this. Who's next?
Me, Councillor Rowley.
Okay, go ahead, Rolly.
Thank you, Councillor Yvonne. Well, my option would be 1B, which what is recommended by Sean. It's cheaper. The rumble line does wake you up if you do tend to doze off when you're driving on the road. So that's a safe way. Concern that I have is that section, is it open with a grader or with the plow? I know the grader with the moldboard and the wing would do it in one pass, but the plow itself and the wing, you probably would have to go twice if we're looking at how many meters compared to just a regular road, if you count the sidewalk included, paved.
So 3.25 is one lane width, or one lane width, and then plus the 1.8. So to 4.5, I'd have to measure the width of the plow truck, but I'm positive that that's done with a grader.
That would,
most of the core routes are done with a grader, but I'd have to double check that for sure.
If it's done with the grader, then it's not an issue. You're going to do that road in one pass, so it doesn't cost more down the road. So yeah,
right.
What you are recommending, Sean, is what I vote for. Thank you.
Thank you, Rolly, and so Councillor Leo?
Yeah, 1B, the same thing.
Thank you, Councillor Leo. Councillor Dan.
Yeah,
I agree with what you said, Yvonne, about 1B, but I'm just trying to visualize, because we haven't done any of those rumbles in the municipality, have we?
No, we have not.
Go
Pardon
ahead,
me?
Sean.
No, we have not as of yet. This is the engineer from Tulloch who recommended that, but we can alter the rumble strip for the white lining, which we do have.
So supplemental to that, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, sure, go ahead, Dan.
So no, I tend to like the idea of the rumble, but I'm just picturing it. So what side, I'm trying to look on the plan, what side would that rumble be for your sidewalk?
So between the edge of road, you would have, so edge of road, rumble strip, and then your paved shoulder.
Okay, so is that on both sides or on one side? Just one side?
Only on the side with the paved bike lane sidewalk.
Okay, that's pretty good. No, I like that idea.
Yeah, where it becomes efficient is for winter maintenance, for sweeping in summer months, because you're doing it in one swoop, as opposed to sending a sidewalk machine and a sidewalk sweeper afterwards. So that's where the efficiencies are. But again, like I said, I'm indifferent, whatever council decides.
Can I ask another question, Yvonne?
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Those rumbles, can you put that in after you've done a road?
No, they are done while the asphalt is still hot.
Okay.
And yeah, it's part of the process while you pave.
So
Okay.
I would agree with Yvonne, Leo, and Chris that we go with 1B.
Thank you, Dan. The next one would be Denis. Is it Denis?
Sure, I'll go next. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The option I would prefer is option 2, where there's a sidewalk and it's a defined sidewalk. That I think it's safer to have the sidewalk than to have a full pavement on the side. So that would be my recommendation, is to go with option 2, concrete sidewalk with asphalt gutter.
Thank you very much, sir. So now I'll go to Conseil Elise.
Well, I prefer option 2 also because of the sidewalk, but again, I have to think about the street and what Sean said about then for snow removal, they would be just on one side of the street, because so that will create some issue for some landlord, that they won't like to have all the snow on their side, and that's what will create it. So I think I have to go with 1B, which will be great to have. It will be not a sidewalk, but they will have space to walk better than what they have right now. And also they'll allow the rumble. And I'm sure we're not going to satisfy anybody, but I think that's the option right now for the cleaning up, for make sure that the people across the street don't have big, what do you call that? Those pardon?
Snowbanks?
Snowbank, because it would have to be pushed on the just one side. So I would go with 1B, and I think it would be a nice add-on. So at the same time, Sean, can I ask you a question about that? So that means that they're still gonna have a ditch on one side of this, both sides of the street?
Only on the one side. Only on the one side, to my understanding, but I have not seen the final design, Councillor Lee. So I'm cautious when I answer that.
Okay.
But in discussion, that's the gist I got. Now, I will not know until I see the final design.
Okay, and so that's would be the side that there's no ditch. That's where the side, well, maybe 1B will be. Okay.
Thank you, Conseil Elise. I'm going to have to go to Madame Mairesse, sir. She's all alone.
It's okay, majority rules, but I was just curious, did we have a budget assigned or forecasted budget for this project? And if yes, what was the amount?
Capital project from last year.
Yes.
Okay.
But that will be coming back this year with these adjustments.
Okay, if I had a personal preference, I'd go with the sidewalk because knowing the area, knowing it's highly residential, there's a combination of young families, there's a combination of seniors, they walk. For the investment, the difference, it would be a sidewalk. I would hope that sidewalks are not considered a detriment to this municipality because there's added work that needs to be done. I get that part. But we also have an aging population. And for me personally, safety is making sure to have the sidewalk. But I want to know if whatever option that's being provided, did we define a budget line? Did we put something in reserve for Benager Street or?
Yes.
We did? What's the amount?
The project was approved last year.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I don't remember the amount, but if we're talking
Okay.
about that, I'm thinking that would be the same amount that's work that need to be done. And it was already cost, right, Sean? I don't know, but I don't remember the amount.
Right. It was approved last year. But we did find, and I don't want to go back to previous meetings, but we did find some sanitary issues that we needed to go back to the so that's why we're here.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, Rolly, you have a question? Councilor Rolly?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's just to be clear. So we're going with the rumble line with a white line, right?
Yep.
The white line will still be there also.
Yeah.
Okay, just to define the road, the separation. Okay, perfect. That was my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So the majority wants to see option 1B. Sean, if you can take that a note, and we'll allow you to continue whatever you have to do to see this.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will notify Tulloch, and we'll hopefully have a design soon to move forward.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so that ends my part of the agenda, Madame Medes. I give it back to you.
Okay, right now our curfew is 9:30. We would need a mover and a seconder to be able to proceed beyond our curfew. Conseiller Yvon? Conseiller Dan? You're on mute, Melanie.
Is moved by Councillor, no, I've forgotten who moved it. I'm sorry.
Yvon.
Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Revita, the curfew be extended.
Okay, so are there any objections?
I object. It's 9:30
object.
and
Too bad.
Okay, so
you can keep on going right now if the majority, but I have to excuse myself, Madame la Mayor, so I'm doing that properly and asking you if I can leave the room a little bit.
yes, you can.
I'm
You'll-
asking too. I'm not going with Lise. I just want to leave also.
Well, then if you would be in my house, we have two washroom. I would let you use one, but
Okay,
since we
so
don't have
we're
that
good.
issue.
Okay, so just to make sure here, we're proceeding beyond 9:30, but you need to be excused, two of you, for a few minutes. Now I see three people that need to be excused for a few minutes, but you're not all going at the same place together.
I'm going as a chaperone.
Okay, Conseiller Lise, yes, you can be excused.
Madame Medes, my pad here, I had to run and get an extension to plug in my power. So it's at 7%. Okay, now I don't know why it's not generating more power or charging the batteries, but just in case. Okay.
Councillor Yvon, do you see a little lightning bolt up in the corner where the battery is?
Yeah, and it's been going down gradually. I put it on at 10. That's why I ran a little while ago to get a plug-in, and now it's at 7.
But the little lightning bolt lit up like it's charging?
That's right. It is.
Weird.
That's odd, eh?
Yeah, usually if it's
Yeah.
charging is on, it means it's goes up.
Did you pay your bill, Yvonne?
Just to give you an idea, Yvonne, I was gonna try to do, participate on the meeting with my tablet. My tablet was at 37%. So I plugged it in when I got here, but I'm not using it other just to scroll for information. I'm, the memory capacity, the battery capacity increased up to 85%.
But when I started the meeting, it was at 79. My assumption was that I had enough power. This is the first time I see this. I don't know why it's not.
Okay.
I don't know. Just in case something happens, Madame Medes, and I have.
Okay.
Maybe your extension cord is no good, Yvonne. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, it could be. Could be.
It happened to me last meeting also. And I've noticed that if I only charge the laptop and not the keyboard, it kind of, the battery from the laptop gets drained by the keyboard, so it goes out faster. But it's not the laptop.
I removed the keyboard.
Yeah, because the keyboard is not the same. It's a Android and the laptop is an iPad. So
Okay.
an Apple.
It happened to me.
Okay, so,
Last month.
so I understand if we lose you, Conseil Yvon, it's gonna be because of power outage on your iPad.
That's
Okay.
right.
Is
So
that
now,
me? Remember last month or the month before in a closed session? I lost everybody, but I could
Okay.
hear, but I couldn't.
okay, Conseil Leo, I'd like to be able to proceed with the meeting because we have majority. I know that Conseil Alice is coming back. We're moving on to planning. There's 2 resolutions. Is there a mover and a seconder for both resolutions to facilitate the process? Conseil Denis, Conseil
Leo?
Yvon.
It was moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-06, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-45 to rezone certain lands located on Floral Street in Sturgeon Falls from the residential 2 zone to residential 2 exception zone R22 shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Questions, comments, objections? None? Carried, adopted.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-07, being an actual cost bylaw to amend bylaw number 2017-25, where the Kraus Piquet Municipal Drain in the municipality of West Nipissing shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Questions, comments, any objections? Carried, adopted. We proceed to correspondence and accounts, courrier et compte. Okay, is there a mover and a seconder for F1, F2?
Leo?
Conseil Leo? Conseil Alice?
It is moved by Councillor Mallette and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting of council held on the 19th day of January 2021 be adopted as presented.
Any questions, comments? None? Carried, adopted.
It is moved by Councillor Mallette and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Be it resolved that the minutes of the West Nipissing Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on December the 14th, 2020 be adopted as presented.
Questions, comments? None? Adopted, carried. Do a volunteer mover and seconder for F3? Conseil Denis? Conseil Leo?
It is moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following boards and committees be received. West Nipissing Committee of Adjustment, December 14th. Oshawott Board of Management, December 16th. West Nipissing Public Library, December 10th. District of Nipissing Social Services Administration Board, December 16th.
Aucune question? No objections? Carried, adopted. On procède avec affaires nouvelles, new business. We received a request, a letter pertaining to continue to help out with the cost for the rent of the West Nipissing Food Bank. Last year, we agreed that we would cover the cost at 100%. And we agreed that reoccurring requests needed to be submitted yearly for council consideration. Are there any questions pertaining to the documentation that has been received for the municipality to cover the total cost for the rent in the amount of $7,186.80 for the West Nipissing Food Bank be covered by West Nipissing? No questions, no comments. So would there be a volunteer to move and second the resolution? Conseiller Brolly, Conseiller Lise.
It is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Whereas at the February 2nd, 2021 meeting, Council received a request from the West Nipissing Food Bank requesting financial contribution from the West Nipissing Municipality for rental assistance for the year 2021. Be it therefore resolved that Council authorizes a financial contribution of $7,186.86 to the West Nipissing Food Bank, which will be applied towards the rental expenditures for the year 2021.
All in favor? Carried. Adopté. Donc, ceci conclut notre réunion pour ce soir. I just want to share good news, and I believe that I'm not too sure if everyone is aware, but at the Roma conference, there was an update that was provided by the Premier that they were renewing the Community Infrastructure Fund project. And last year, we received in the range of slightly, I believe, over $6,000. And with the renewal of that funding for infrastructure projects, West Nipissing will be recipient for the same amount, which is slightly over $6,000. So it's good news. At least, pardon?
6,000 or 600?
6,000.
Wow, okay.
Oh, 600,000.
600,000.
Oh, okay. Sorry, there's quite
Now
a
when I say,
difference.
okay, I didn't clap hands for sure for 6,000, but 600, yeah.
My mind was thinking 601,000, but then
Okay, we know,
that
so
amount
thank
was
you.
not coming out. But thank you for the clarification,
Yeah.
because it's good news, because it makes a difference. Look at this evening
Well,
with that. But anyway, that's good news. And apart from that, I think it's probably the first meeting that we laugh so much and that I see so many beautiful smiles. Thank you for
okay,
doing
let's
it.
go on. So with the smile's gonna be happening a lot more in
Alice.
2 minutes.
Conseiller Lise, I take this opportunity as well
Ah.
to encourage our residents to view the video stream that Dr. Cherico, our Chief Medical Officer, provided by the health unit last week regarding the questions that came up from the various municipalities. There's a lot of concerns out there. I feel the frustration. There's been a lot of questions that were asked from different areas within the district. It's on the Facebook of the North Bay Parry Sound Health Unit. All members of council were shared a copy of that video as well. It's instrumental information, and it also provides you with clarification pertaining to answers to questions that were asked. Donc, ceci complète notre séance pour ce soir. On that note, thank you to all. Un grand merci à tous. And then we reconvene in 2 weeks from now. And hopefully from now to then, we'll receive a template pertaining to our budget deliberations, so we can proceed in identifying the dates where there's going to be hopefully all of council or a majority of council that will be able to proceed with the dates that are being provided to us. Donc, bonsoir, good evening. And we need a mover and a seconder for the resolution to be able to adjourn. Conseiller Leo, Conseiller Yvon.
It is moved by Councillor Mallette and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-08, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 2nd day of February 2021, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any objections?
Mm.
None?
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the meeting of council held on February 2nd, 2021 be adjourned.
Any objections? None? Carried. Bonsoir. Good evening.
Joanne,
Wait.
I was under the impression, someone told me, I thought the lockdown, it was extended to the 28th of January.
No, I think what the whole issue here is when the lockdown was announced, it was announced that it would take place for 28 days. However, the government, when they implement the order, they can do it in installments of 14 days.
Okay,
So after 14 days or near the 14 days, our premier made the announcement that the stay at home was extended for another 14 days. But in all, it was 28 days from the get-go.
okay, so on the 11th, the lockdown will be removed, hopefully.
Well, we don't know.
Oh,
So we're
okay.
gonna see what's gonna come.
Okay, so it is 11th then. All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
So,
Good night.
Yvonne,
Yeah,
good night.
yeah.
I can explain to you that it's because they extended the emergency order, which gives them the ability to extend the lockdown. That's what's the 28th. It's confusing
Oh.
everybody.
Okay,
But the stay at home was 28 days though, Chris?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's a different thing that they've extended. It's not
I
the stay at
know.
home.
It's
Okay.
the, why? And it's not the
Okay.
same as the reorder. But anyway, good night. The meeting,
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.